Hello everyone, welcome to the home of FIFA in Zurich on the occasion of the 15th meeting of the FIFA Council, which was held today via video conference. Before inviting FIFA President Gianni Infantino to make his opening remarks, I would like to provide you with some procedural information. This press conference is being live streamed to the general public via FIFA.com in 4 languages on 4 separate streams, in English, French, German and Spanish. In addition, for media attending the Zoom call, the same interpretation is available. And I would ask you to ensure that you have your language settings fixed on the bottom right side of your screen. For those of you who would like to ask questions, please use the raise hand button on your screen. Once you have been identified, we will unmute you and invite you to ask your question. We will open the press conference to questions in a few moments, but before then, I would like to pass the floor to the FIFA President, Gianni Infantino.
Thank you very much, David, and of course welcome to all of you, to all the media representatives. Thanks for the interest you take in football. Thanks for the interest you take in what we do. I hope we are all doing well, because if the last year has taught us something, it is that health is the most important thing we have. So I wish you the best of health. We had the council meeting right now. We took a few decisions at the council. I would just like to go through some of them. You will then receive, of course, a more detailed press release. But the first decision I would like to highlight and mention is that we are going to ask the Congress, the FIFA Congress, to decide in future to host on who to host the future edition of the FIFA Women's World Cup. As you know, it was decided some years ago in FIFA that the Congress should decide on the Men's World Cup. The 2026 World Cup was decided at the 2018 Congress, but for the Women's World Cup this was not yet the case, and so in June of last year we had to take a decision inside the Council on who would host the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. This is now, hopefully, I have to say, going to change. At least the Council has adopted unanimously the proposal to recommend to the Congress to amend the FIFA statutes in this respect by giving the Congress the power to appoint the hosts for the Women's World Cup as well as for the Men's World Cup. I think this is important. It was probably long overdue, and now we are doing it, and it is normal that the entire world has to decide on who organizes a World Cup for both men and women. Another hot topic currently, or topical issue right now, which is very high on our agenda, which was mentioned at and discussed, of course, at the council meeting, is the situation with regard to the release of players for national teams in the upcoming March window in particular. As you might know, the Bureau of the FIFA Council, and this was ratified today by the entire Council, has extended until April 21 the provisions which already were implemented for the release of players in October and November of last year. This was done after, of course, a thorough consultation with all stakeholders involved. Now we are living, of course, in a very difficult situation, especially in Europe, but not only, of course, in Europe, with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic. Travel is complicated. Health is and has to remain the priority, and that's why we somehow relaxed a little bit our rules. We are currently in contact with many member associations, with many governments as well, because obviously we would like the national team games to go ahead as planned in March for those confederations who have planned games. But we would like these games to go ahead with the best possible squads as well. Now we understand the situation. We understand that it is delicate, and that's why we amended our regulations as well to foresee particular situations. We call, obviously, as well on all parties involved, on the clubs, on the players, on the associations, on the leagues, on everyone, to show as well understanding, solidarity. National team football is very important for the vast majority of countries around the world, not only from a financial point of view, but also, of course, from the point of view of the spirit of a nation, and for a nation to be able to see their players playing football with their colors. If this can be done, of course, in a very safe environment, and that's why we have our protocols in place. This is, of course, a very, very important message that is sent. So currently we are, as I said, in discussions. We have rules. There are government decisions. We will see how many exemptions we can or can be granted by governments in this respect, and we hope really that these upcoming national team games will be played in the best conditions. Maybe in relation to the Congress as well, the financials were approved, the 2020 financials and the budget for 2022, and it is very positive to see that our accounts have been a few hundred million better than what was budgeted. This obviously in spite of the pandemic and also due to the economies that we have been able to say, but to make. But more importantly, we have been able to present a COVID-19 relief plan, as you know, of an overall value of $1.5 billion, and this would not have been possible without a very solid financial situation in which FIFA is today, and which is reflected, of course, in our annual reports, in the financial reports that, of course, will also be available on FIFA.com. Another important topic is the event which will take place to test the venues in Qatar for the World Cup in 2022. It's the FIFA Arab Cup. It's 450 million people around the world who are looking forward to that competition, which will take place in Qatar from the 1st to the 18th of December of this year, in the venues, not all, but most of the venues, which will host the World Cup 1 year later. So we are looking very much forward to this new competition, who will crown the best Arab national team. It is also a celebration of Arab culture in a time where the first World Cup is going to be played in 1 year and a half in Qatar. So the Council approved and adopted the relevant regulations for this competition. One final topic I would like to mention at this stage, and I mentioned it as well at the Council meeting, is an important topic. It's a delicate topic as well, and we need to face it. We need to face the situation of child abuse in football, in sport generally, but we are in charge of football and we need to face it. There has been a recent report published in England, but besides that, we were confronted in the last couple of years with some cases at FIFA level as well, and this topic is a topic that affects all of us, that we have to take seriously, that we have to take head on. And for this reason, 2 years ago, we started with our FIFA Guardian project, a project which is there to help our member associations, to help educate our members. We have started now a specific education program as well a few weeks ago, because we have seen, obviously, that there have been cases. And it is important as well that we realize that this matter goes beyond football and beyond sport as such. And for this, we need to discuss with other bodies, not only sports bodies, but also governmental and intergovernmental bodies, to see how best to work together to assure that our children can play sport, can do sport, can play football in a safe environment. Hence the idea of creating maybe a specialized agency, public, sportive. We are discussing it. We launched the idea. We will not stop fighting for the care of our children. And of course, our thoughts are with those who have been victims in the past of these terrible crimes. And our responsibility is to tackle it, is to face it, and is to try to do whatever we can to make sure that children can practice their sport in a safe environment. I wanted to mention this here because it is a topic which is very important for FIFA, very important for us. Thank you very much. David.
Thank you, Mr. President. We now take your questions. Please, as before, kindly remember to set up the language of your choice on Zoom. And for those who would like to ask questions, please use the raise hand function button on your screen. We will unmute you and invite you to ask your question. With that in mind, first on the list, Jamie Gardner from the Press Association. Jamie, can we have your question, please?
Yes, thanks, David. Hi there, Gianni.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi. Following up on what you just said there about the Sheldon report in the UK, I wanted to ask you where you stand on the idea of sanctioning people under the FIFA Ethics Code when they hear rumours about abuse but don't investigate or escalate it further? Or should people only be sanctioned if they know abuse has happened and do nothing about it?
Well, I think we have as well already had to use, sadly, the ethics code, and our ethics bodies had already to take decisions in cases of abuse of children. It is something that we were maybe not ready to. It is an issue which is very different as well in very different parts of the world. You cannot compare countries in this respect, in the sense that in some countries you have already other systems, hotlines and situations in place which give the opportunity to somebody who would maybe know anything about something like this to know where to go. In other parts of the world, it's simply not possible. And it's delicate, and you need to protect first the victims, you need to protect their families. We have faced some situations in FIFA where we had to help children, where we had to help their families. And we realized that we have to do more. And for this reason, this process, I think, is important in the sense of establishing the acknowledgement by everyone that this is an issue, but then also to tackle it in the most efficient way possible. Now, how exactly this will evolve and develop in the future, what are the means that we can put in place, these are topics that are still discussed. We have started 2 years ago with the FIFA Guardian program. We were probably one of the first sport organizations in the world to do that. And we are still, of course, learning from our experience. But if you ask me, we should do whatever we can to punish anyone who is involved. But before that, even to educate, to make sure that nothing like that happens.
Next question comes from Greg Walton from Agence France Presse. Greg, your question, please.
Thank you, and hi, Gianni. I see
hi, Greg.
that. Hi. On Monday, Amnesty will publish a story saying that they've written to you, calling on you and FIFA to do more to ensure the rights of workers involved in preparations for the World Cup here, specifically suggesting that the reforms enacted so far have been inadequate and that laws slated by the FIFA Council Consultative Assembly here would actually take some of those reforms backwards. I wonder what your response to their approach will be. Thank you.
I'm not sure I got it. For a report they are publishing next Monday. Is it next Monday? Amnesty International next Monday. Okay. Well, you know, of course we will read and analyze every report, and we take any criticism on board, and we try to address it to the best of our capabilities. I have to say that we need to be, how should I say, fair as well when we assess the situation of human rights. Human rights and protection of human rights at the international level is a top priority for FIFA. We enshrined it, and again, we were probably the first in our statutes. We put it as a condition in our bidding processes for all our competitions, and wherever we go around the world, we are, of course, highlighting the need for protecting human rights. When it comes to the situation in Qatar, in particular, I think we need to be fair there as well and admit that a lot of progress has happened. A lot of progress in the conditions of the workers. Of course, more can be done everywhere, always, even in Switzerland, probably. But we need to also look a little bit, and we're always good at giving lessons to everyone. We need to look a little bit also at the history, at where people, countries, regions are coming from. It took us in Europe, how many decades? Probably centuries to arrive where we are today. Other countries are doing the same process in a few years. We need to recognize that. We need to recognize as well that without the spotlight, of course, of the World Cup, no progress would happen. Now, some progress has happened. This has been recognized not by FIFA, but by international organizations, workers' organizations, in particular the abolishment of the kafala system, the minimum wages, just to mention two, the healthcare matters. More can be done, always. Of course, more can be done. But it is a process. We need to do more. We will always try and strive for doing more. And this can happen only, that's my point of view, this can happen only through dialogue, through respect, through understanding the history, but looking into the future. And from that point of view, in FIFA we encompass the whole world. We have 211 members. They are all the same from everywhere in the world. And this is already, for me, the biggest sign of how we want to live human rights. We don't want just to speak about human rights. We want to really live them on our day by day. So a lot of progress has been done. We will analyze this new report, and we will see what we can do even more to help the situation, not only of workers, but generally of people. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Amin Birouk of Radio Mars in Morocco. Amin, please, your question.
Bonjour, President Infantino.
Hello, President Infantino. Last week you visited Rabat, and that was an opportunity to see what was happening in football in Morocco, and you promoted teamwork in promoting the new CAF team. How can FIFA help CAF, and what aspects of the development of African football do you want to see in collaboration with FIFA?
Merci beaucoup, Amin.
Thank you, Amin. That's right. I did visit Rabat in Morocco last Friday for the Congress of the African Football Confederation. And there, when I spoke, I underscored the importance of teamwork and unity, which I had seen over a few days at Congress. And that's a very important thing, because we know, all of us, that African football has experienced difficulties and faced challenges, and it's therefore important that we start to turn the page and look to the future with the support of everybody in African football. And so that spirit is now being seen. And we're not just talking about unity behind a person or a group of people, we're talking about unity behind a whole project. And that is what is so encouraging for us here in FIFA. Because what we want to see is the globalization of football. We want to see all continents play a key role in the future of football. And Africa is, of course, a very important continent with 54 member associations. There is so much passion there, more than 1 billion people. So, of course, we are counting on Africa to play a very important role within FIFA. We said to our African colleagues when we were there, the 54 African member associations are members of FIFA and members of CAF. And so we're all in this together. And we have to work together. And so how can we do that? Well, all of the presidential candidates mentioned a number of elements and agreed on the importance of good governance, which needs to be at the very heart of everything that is done. They also mentioned infrastructure, and they also underscored the importance of youth development. And then finally, competitions. And you ask about how FIFA can help. Well, we have the Forward program to support member associations and to support confederations and the different regions within Africa. And as I said at the Congress of CAF, we don't just want to be there to be supporting our African colleagues, but we want to be in the same team, and we are in the same team. So in all of these areas, we have a lot to talk about. And CAF wants to see this. Wherever CAF or the African Member Association require FIFA's help, we will be there. And we'll be there to try to push African football to the very top of global football.
Our next question comes from Chile, from Radio Agregatura, Oscar Garrido. Oscar, the floor is yours.
Hola Gianni, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas tardes.
Hello, Gianni. A very good afternoon. With regard to South American qualifiers for Qatar, obviously we suspended the March dates recently, and could you give us any more information about how the games are going to take place? Because we know that the calendar is a very tight one, and we know that there aren't many dates available. Do you know when these games are going to be played? And how we're going to ensure that players playing in Europe will be able to play in those games in South America? Thank you, Oscar. And thank you for your question. Yes, it's true that the situation in South America and over the past few days and hours, we are seeing this in other confederations and continents too. It's been a very difficult situation, and I can assure you that colleagues in South America will know better than I do that the decision to postpone these games was far from easy. We discussed this in great detail, and For many hours of discussions, we tried to find a solution to ensure that these games could take place. But given the situation, and given how the situation is developing, unfortunately, it just wasn't possible to get those games played in March. Therefore, the decision was taken to postpone the dates, and we are currently looking at when those games can be played. Of course, it's absolutely vital that those games are played, and as we've always done, we'll discuss this with other confederations, with leagues, with clubs, with players' unions. We'll sit down together and we'll look at each and every one of these situations and ensure that everyone understands very clearly what the situation is. Of course, we all understand that we can't force a player to go and play a match if that will put his health at risk. And we know that sometimes governments take decisions that have to be respected by FIFA and by member associations. So clearly, the situation is very challenging at the moment, and we do hope that over the next few months, with the rollout of vaccination programs, the situation will improve, and we won't have to postpone any more matches, and we'll be able to find dates to play these two games for South American qualifying. And that might be in June, in September, in October, or November, or next year. But we'll be looking very closely at that. And of course, we're not going to find the perfect solution. Perfection just doesn't exist. But we will find an agreement to ensure that we can protect players' health and protect the sporting integrity of the competition of qualifying for the World Cup. And we know that in South America, the qualifying rounds are always very, very tough. And we really hope the teams will be able to play with all of their players. Of course, I would like to make a call, issue a call to all clubs abroad, outside of South America, to also consider solidarity at this time, because it's very important that when we talk about dates, we can see that solidarity coming from clubs in Europe or in North America, to ensure that South American players can go and play. So from FIFA's side, I can say that we are trying to protect national football in South America and indeed all over the world. Thank you very much indeed.
Our next question comes from the Associated Press. Graham Dunbar, please. Graham, your question.
Thank you very much, David. Good afternoon, Gianni.
Hi, Graham.
A question, quite a couple of issues on China. As an Inter Milan fan, you will know that investment from China is not as reliable as it used to be. And as an IOC member, you can see that partnering with China for your biggest events, it can be a real struggle to try and to keep the messaging correct and maybe even lose control of that a little. You've got Club World Cup and 2030 World Cup bidding coming up soon. And the big issues, Uyghur detention camps primarily, don't seem to look like they're going to be resolved before then. What are your current thoughts on weighing the reputational risks for FIFA in going to China for these events, or partnering with China, given that, unlike in Qatar, there doesn't seem to be much progress being made on social issues from China hosting the biggest sports events?
Thanks, Graham. Well, first of all, let me say that I think Inter Milan is not doing too bad these days, so that's already a positive item in this respect. But obviously, more seriously, China is, as the other 210 countries or member associations of FIFA, for us at the same level. We had already decided that the new Club World Cup in the new format should have been taking place in China. It should have been this June and July. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the Euro was postponed and the Copa America was postponed, and for us, it was clear that we should give the place to them. When we will be able to play this new Club World Cup in China, we don't know yet. We realize that, you know, there are today in the world more important issues than the FIFA Club World Cup, whether it's the old or the new format. It doesn't really matter. There are more important issues. It's COVID, it's health, it's solidarity, and we have to deal with these issues. And then when the time is right, we will discuss again with the Chinese Football Association, with the council members, on when the new Club World Cup can take place in China, because this decision has already been taken by the council. When it comes to future World Cup 2030 or others, Women's World Cups, and so on and so forth, well, you know, the regulations for that World Cup will only be discussed later this year. They will be issued next year, so that will be the beginning of the bidding process, with a decision to be taken in 2024. And who will then host that World Cup? Well, we will see. For us, we have our requirements. I was mentioning it earlier as well. Human rights are now a requirement in our bidding process. But we must also realize that human rights being a requirement means also addressing it, going to the people, not excluding anyone, but including everyone in the world, because in the world, that's at least my philosophy, we are all equal, we are all the same. And I believe very much in the force of football to bring positive change. And this can only happen if we act in a positive way. If we act in a negative way by starting excluding countries or people or races or whatever, then we are completely on the wrong side. So as long as I will be here, not only here at this press conference, but as long as I will be FIFA president, I will always advocate for FIFA being the house of football all over the world, and for everyone to be included in our activities.
Our next question comes from CRTV in Cameroon. Daniel Ekonde. Daniel, the floor is yours. Hello, Daniel. Daniel, we'll come back to you later in the press conference. I wait for the next hand to be raised. Apologies for an instant, please. Our next question should come from Reuters. Simon Evans. Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Hi, Gianni. Arsene Wenger, one of your colleagues, gave an interview this week, and he was talking about the review of the calendar, the global match calendar, and suggested a World Cup every 2 years, a Euros every 2 years, and getting rid of the other competitions. Is that something that is on the agenda in this review, to have a World Cup every 2 years? And where are we with that review? I understood it was to start in March. Is that still the plan?
Yes. Yes, thanks for the question, Simon. Yes, the international match calendar is high on our agenda. The international match calendar is fixed until 2024, and thereafter it is wide open. And in order to take into account the interests of the world, we need to be open to everyone to everything, to every proposal, to every idea. I mean, Arsene Wenger is not only a successful and brilliant manager, he is a professor of football. But besides that, we have, of course, our bodies, and we will debate and discuss the calendar starting now, because we need to come to a decision in the next few months. The sooner the better. I mean, by the end of this year or sometime in the course of next year, for everyone to be able to plan. I think that when it comes to the international match calendar, the crucial question will be, what do we want to do for the future of football, to strike the right balance between clubs and national teams, right? It's important that we keep club football and national team football both at the same level alive. For many countries around the world, national team football is the only time that they can see their heroes play for their country. It is very important. On the other side, club football is extremely important as well. It is the locomotive of football. And we have an international match calendar. We have seen now with the COVID as well some of the limits of this international match calendar, with more and more players from more and more countries playing abroad. It is complicated. We had in the last window, well, if we speak about Africa for a second, in addition to the 54 African countries, players from 61 other countries in 4 continents having to travel to Africa for a bit more than a week to play 2 games. Is it right? Is it what we want? So when you speak to stakeholders, be it leagues, clubs, players, associations, confederations, nobody's really happy with the situation, but nobody wants to give, of course, anything of what they have. And the calendar is not extensible. We have decided at FIFA to abolish the Confederations Cup, for example, and the annual Club World Cup in exchange of another competition, but by not adding additional games. So the question of more quality and less quantity is a question that, of course, we need to debate. The question of travels, the question of how many windows do we need? These are all questions that are there up for debate. The job of the FIFA president of FIFA is to open the doors to everyone, because there are no taboo topics. Open the doors to everyone to come, to discuss, to debate what kind of competitions do we need, what kind of calendar do we need. Everyone might be ready to make a little step if he sees his upside, and I'm sure we can find solutions where everyone can benefit, some a bit more than others maybe, but everyone should be able to benefit from a new international match calendar. This is our main task. We are here at FIFA looking very much forward to this debate, to this discussion. Maybe at the end nothing changes, but at least we'll have had a thorough debate, and I'm sure that also from your side there will be a lot of input and a lot of comments. But please bear in mind that we don't have only 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 countries. We don't have only 8 or 10 or 14 clubs. We have, and we must have in future, and that's our vision, at least 50 countries who can legitimately become world champion. We have to have at least 50 clubs from all over the world who can legitimately be world champion. Of course, the majority will be and will remain Europeans, but maybe we need even more Europeans than what we have today. And we need a few as well from the rest of the world. And the calendar will be a tool to work in that direction if everyone thinks it's good.
I go back to Daniel in Cameroon. Daniel Ekonde, the floor is yours, Daniel. I hear you have your microphone issues resolved. Daniel, your question, please. Maybe not on this occasion, Daniel. We'll try and get you later in the press conference. Next question comes from Ghana, from TV3 Network. Juliet Bawa. Juliet, the floor is yours. People are staying shy today. Next question. We go to Mohammed Al Ghazar from Al Watan in Qatar. Mohammed, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Hello, Mohammed.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yes,
Your question,
okay.
please. Yes, all good.
Okay. Hello, Mr. President.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. This is Muhammad from Qatar. My questions, Mr. Infantino, do you think in the next year we can sing for the first time one World Cup without supporter? Or do you think the experience for Qatar in Asians League and club for this season, we saw nice support. We saw the supporter in the FIFA tournament. Do you think we can show the supporter in FIFA World Cup 2022, or it will be difficult if the vaccine didn't succeed? Thank you.
Shukran, Mohammed. Thanks very much for the question. We will see the best World Cup ever in November, December 2022 in Qatar. The best World Cup ever means a World Cup with full stadiums. I am 100% sure about that. I'm 100% sure about that because I've already witnessed, and we have already witnessed, in one of the most difficult periods, like the one we have been facing in the recent weeks, how we could organize the Club World Cup in Qatar with 30% occupancy of stadiums in a healthy environment, in a safe environment. I've been meeting the Minister of Health, I've been meeting with His Highness the Emir, as well with the Prime Minister. We've been discussing these topics, and what is implemented in Qatar is absolutely state of the art, and looking forward even more so. The vaccination has, of course, just started around the world. I was told a few weeks ago at the WHO that there are 2.5 billion vaccines available. Now we are 7 or 8 billion people in the world. Maybe not everyone wants to be vaccinated, but hopefully we understand as well that the vaccines are quite efficient to over 95%. So it is a question of a few months until everyone will have the opportunity to be vaccinated and we get rid of this COVID once and hopefully for all, because we need to go back to some sort of normal life. And as I said as well in the past, if in 2 years from now or 1 year and 9 months from now, the time of the World Cup, if at that moment we are still discussing about matches without spectators and about lockdowns and about other restrictive measures, then I think the World Cup will be the least of the problems of humanity. We need to realize that even though the World Cup is very important, there are things which are more important than that. But I'm confident, again, from speaking to many government officials, not only in Qatar but around the world, to the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros and his team, very efficient people, that also thanks to the vaccines, everything will be in order. And the World Cup will be fantastic. And allow me just to add one more thing, since we speak about the World Cup in Qatar, something that is not, I think, highlighted often enough. In spite of the COVID pandemic, of the crisis since 1 year where everything stood still, the work has been going on in Qatar, not only with regard to the venues, to the stadiums, but also more generally the whole infrastructure. And that's quite amazing because we have virtually no delays in the different projects, which is again an incredible achievement. I'm now since more than 20 years, 25 years probably, in this world, organizing tournaments, organizing events, and I've never seen a country being so ready as Qatar more than 1 year in advance. And that's why I'm also confident that everyone who will come to Qatar, who will come to the whole Gulf region, because you can stay a few days here and a few days there as well, they will witness, a welcoming place. They will witness a great World Cup, and we will all enjoy this fantastic event. Thanks.
Next question comes from the Times. Martin Ziegler. Martin, your question, please.
Hi, Johnny.
Hi, Martin.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. The British government announced last month it was going to fund a feasibility study on a joint British and Irish bid for the 2030 World Cup. Spain and Portugal have also indicated they're going to bid. Traditionally, Europe used to have the every other tournament, then it went to one every three. Europe thinks 2030 should be their turn. Is that an outdated view? And also, what's the possibility of FIFA Council changing the regulations so that Asian federations can bid?
Martin, can you give me the second part? We just didn't get your last sentence.
So what's the possibility of the FIFA Council changing the regulations so that the Asian Confederation can bid for 2030? The Asian country from the Asian Confederation.
Thanks, Martin, for the question, and you will obviously not be surprised that my answer will be, well, we will have to see in the regulations when they will be implemented. What I can say, though, is first, I'm very happy of what I was reading with regard to the interest of Mr. Boris Johnson and the whole British world, so to say, to host a World Cup. We had something similar, of course, in Spain and Portugal. We had some interests in South America in some countries. We had some interest as well in Eastern Europe in some countries a few months or a year or so ago. So for me as FIFA president, the more candidates we have, the happier I am, because as well we know that now we'll organize a bidding process which is bulletproof, which is clean, which is transparent, which is professional, where the rules are clear ahead of the bids coming in. This is what we did last time, and I'm proud of that, because if it wouldn't have happened, you would have killed us, rightly. But it did happen. We did do a bidding process which went very, very well, and we want to do the same. Now, to do that, of course, we need to respect always our statutes, which have a provision with regard to the periodicity of the World Cup, and we will be guided by our periodicity of the World Cup in the different confederations. We will be guided by our statutes, and this will then be discussions which will take place at the different FIFA committees and in the FIFA Council. As I said, we'll start the process in 2022, probably mid-2022, with the decision being taken in 2024. So we still have a bit of time. And again, as FIFA president, the message to the entire world, come and bid. The more we have, the merrier.
Our next question comes from the South China Morning Post. So good morning, Nazvi. It's Nazvi Karim. Your question, please. Hello, Nazvi.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We got you loud and clear.
Okay, thanks, David, Gianni.
No worries.
I'd like to bring you back to China. I mean, you answered half the question earlier. Basically, it's been some years since China announced big ambitions for football in their country in terms of national team, commercially, and hosting. From what you know, what kind of developments have you seen there, and how far have they progressed in what you personally know? Thank you.
Thanks very much for the question. I'm I'm a big fan of countries who want to. I speak about football, who want to develop football, and China has been striking for me in their will to develop football. When I went the first time to meet President Xi Jinping, when I met with the Football Association in China, and we met then a few times thereafter, I always saw the will and the wish to create really a football culture in the country. And I think this is the right approach. It's not about being able to host a big event. We all know that China can host a big event. That's nothing new. China could host a World Cup tomorrow, like the US, like Russia, like England or the UK, more generally like Germany, like a few other countries. But the point is, how can the football culture become part of the local culture? And the project of the government, of the federation, to install, I remember at that time, 70,000 football fields and stadiums around the country, and this has been implemented, goes a long way in that direction. We have started as well at FIFA level a cooperation with the Chinese Football Association, with the authorities, because it is important that local talent is developed. It's important to have good players from abroad to play in the top professional league, in the best clubs, but it is important as well, in order to have this culture, to develop local talent, to have clubs at local level, in the villages, in the cities, in the regions, everywhere, to have competitions for youth, for women all over the country, to have it structured, to have it organized. So the progress which has been made in China is very important, but we are not there yet. We can do more, we can do better, we can work together, and this is certainly one of the priorities for FIFA, to make sure that we have one additional top player, such as China, such as the US, for example, as well, who will play a very, very important part at the level of the top European leagues in the future of global football. We will do whatever we can at FIFA to push in that direction. The basis is definitely there. The will is there. The work has started. Now we have to realize that, of course, it takes a bit of time as well to get there, but the commitment is firm. JJ.
Next question comes from Ghana. Juliet Bawa. Juliet, your question, please.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Hello, Gianni. How are you?
Hi, Juliet. Very well, and you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So my question is, tournaments are being played or gradually being played, and Africa just completed the U20 AFCON competition. Athletics events are going on, and continental competitions are also happening, but FIFA moved to cancel the FIFA U17 and also Under-20 World Cups. For example, when you look at how football has returned to various parts of the world now, do you think perhaps FIFA rushed decision to cancel the FIFA Under-20 World Cup? That Ghana won the title, and the FIFA World Cup also provided a very good platform for young players back in 2009. So unfortunately, these players will have no FIFA Under-20 World Cup for them to compete in. When you look back, do you think how far we've come with regards to football and post-lockdown? Do you think maybe FIFA rushed in their decision to cancel?
Thanks, Juliet, for the question. Believe me, it was a very, very, very difficult decision to decide to cancel, indeed, or to postpone, if you want to use another term, our youth competitions last year. It was a very difficult decision because, as you rightly say, we somehow take away the opportunity for young players to shine at a global level, be it boys or girls. And so it took us quite some time before we came to that conclusion. Believe me, it took us several months and a lot of discussions and a lot of attempts to find a place where we could play, to find teams who could come, but it proved unfortunately impossible to organize competitions at a global stage, because qualifiers would not have been able to be played in many parts of the world, because teams would not have been able to travel in some parts of the world, and then to organize a World Cup without maybe 2 or 3 continents is also not the right thing to do, probably. But you know, there is certainly no right decision in this pandemic. There is just a responsible decision that we had to take, unfortunately, and we will, though, think, and we are discussing it right now as well, how we can improve and foster our youth competitions. It is, for example, not a secret that I have been advocating for having youth World Cups, both for boys and girls, in different age categories every year instead of every 2 years. In Europe, for example, youth competitions are played every year. I don't understand why this cannot be done at global level as well, because similarly, playing every second year, you lose always one generation in the rest of the world. In Europe, not, because in Europe, every year, European championships at youth level are played. So we need to come up with new ideas, with new proposals in this respect, because youth football for boys and for girls is crucial for our future. Thanks.
Next up, an ultimate question comes from ESPN in Mexico. Omar Flores. Omar, can we have your question, please?
Good afternoon. What do you think about the project with the American League, and what about the 3 hosts for the 2026 World Cups in spite of the pandemic? What are the chances there? Well, thank you for your questions, Omar. On the hosts for the World Cups, well, those discussions, of course, are taking place at the moment. The 3 in Mexico and also in the United States and Canada. Unfortunately, because of COVID and the pandemic, we haven't yet been able to travel to see more clearly for ourselves, but we will be taking decisions in due course by the end of this year. So we still have a little bit of time to think about that, and hopefully we will be able to visit those sites within the next few months. But for the time being, we can just have teleconferencing and Zoom meetings with people from the potential hosts, which of course is going to be an exceptional World Cup in Canada, the United States and Mexico. As yet, we have not taken any firm decision in that respect. With regard to the issue of discussions among teams, leagues, confederations or associations between Mexico and the United States, we've seen that the CONCACAF Champions League has been broadened, for example, which is a step in that direction towards playing more matches, more club matches at the international level. And I think the potential in the United States and Mexico is enormous. Each country by itself, and of course if you could bring those two together, then that would be incredible, and that could quite well be the best league in the world. And of course any discussion about organizing such international tournaments, of course, respecting the rules of member associations and FIFA, with the agreement of all stakeholders. Any discussion in that respect is interesting, and we see that in a positive light. Of course, if we want teams from clubs to play at the very highest level all over the world, and not just in Europe, then we need to have new ideas, and we need to see that. And we see the potential in North America, the economic potential, the potential in footballing terms. We can see that potential among football leaders and leaders in North America, and I trust them to take the best decisions in that regard.
Final question today comes from Super Sports in Uganda. Usher Kamugisha. Usher, can we have your question, please?
All right. Thank you very much, Gianni and David. Good evening. My question to take earlier about the LFB in France denying and refusing. Yes. The thing is, you say that you will speak to. When exactly are we going to get feedback? Because the qualifiers start next week. Thank you.
Hello, Usher.
We didn't get the question.
We need you to repeat your question, please.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm saying that you spoke earlier about urging governments on the issue of African players traveling from France, for example, to come for the AFCON 2021 qualifiers. When exactly shall we have the feedback on that issue? Because the games are next week.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Well, since the games are next week, we are expecting a decision very soon. I think when it comes to France, we are expecting a decision today. Let me just say it's not just about Africa, it is also about Africa, but as far as France, for example, is concerned, the restrictions are with all non-European Union and European Economic Area countries. So it includes the rest of the world except the European Union, not even the UEFA territory as such. But we have been approaching, of course, the French authorities, and we are expecting their answer hopefully today still or tomorrow, so that decisions can be taken on the games ahead. We are, as I said, very saddened about the situation. Our plea to the government in France, to the other governments in Europe, in the rest of the world, but of course in Europe mainly because most of the players from around the world are playing in Europe, is to foresee exemptions as it was the case in October and November, again provided of course the protocols are in place, and the protocols are in place. We had some successful tests, so to say, in October and November with less than 0.5% of positive cases. So you know, we have to do whatever we can to protect national team football. But we need as well to respect decisions of governments who take these decisions also not easily, and to protect the health of their citizens. We need to respect that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. That brings today's press conference to a close. Many thanks for your questions, for your answers, and also for the interpretation that has been provided. This video conference, together with the official media release from today's FIFA Council meeting, are available on FIFA.com. I would look forward to seeing you again at the 71st FIFA Congress on Friday, the 21st of May. Until then, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.